Have you tried yerba mate but you just don't understand it? Or are you trying to find a way to connect better with the locals in Argentina? Trust me, I've been there, and after spending 7 months living in Buenos Aires, I finally cracked the code. So in this video, I'm gonna be showing you literally all the rules I can think of so that when you show up to Argentina, you already know how to have a good yerba mate and you can impress the locals with how much you know. Now, mate is more than just a drink, and this is one of the #1 things you need to learn before you actually get into mate. Here, you're joining a culture, you're joining a community. Whether it be just materos, people who love to drink mate, or whether it be joining the culture of Argentina. That's why I got into it, because I knew it was a way that if I bought these couple things, I could immediately jump into the culture of Buenos Aires, the culture of Argentina. That's how I, went out with a couple girls and said, oh, I really need help making a mate. And they'd be like, oh, I can't wait to help you, as we do.
Y si hago algo mal, necesitas decirme.
Te digo.
Mitad o poco más.
Ahí está bien.
But then after that, it became something you look forward to when you're driving in the car with a group of friends. You got the one person in the back pouring the mate, passing it around. So this isn't just a caffeinated drink, this is an entire experience. So before we actually get into making a mate, let's talk about some of the history so that you can whip out these facts. Remember this. Yerba comes from a tree that grows in this area, in the areas of northern Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, and southern Brazil. Now, the Guarani people were the people who, were indigenous to this area, and they were there for who knows how long. And just so you know, Guarani is still a language spoken in Paraguay. Now, the Guarani indigenous people figured out that if you chew yerba leaves or if you steep it in water, it can help you get more energy, it can help reduce fatigue, it'll help you suppress hunger. And they actually saw this as a gift from the gods. They used it in daily life, they even used it in rituals. That was up until the 1500s when the Spanish colonizers came in. The Spanish colonizers came in, saw that they were using this, and eventually actually banned it. They saw it as a pagan practice that was going against their own religion, that it was, an old indigenous thing that they wanted to wipe out. But as always, you can only fight mate for so long. Eventually, the Spanish colonizers realized the potential, they saw the benefits of it, and they started to use it themselves, which eventually meant the ban got lifted. Fast forward to the 1600s when the Jesuits came in. They discovered the power of yerba, and they implemented some advanced farming techniques. They were the first ones to colonize, I don't know if that's the word, to turn the tree into an actual farming practice. Domesticate, that's the word. They were the first ones to domesticate the farming practice, domesticate the plant, and they actually expanded the production. They made it better. This led to it becoming an actual globally traded thing. And because of that, it started to reach some of the upper class people of the world. And once the higher class adopted it, of course, everybody else started to adopt it as well. And that's how it kind of made roots back into the culture. Eventually, the Jesuits were expelled by the Spanish crown, which did cause the production of yerba to actually go down. But once you get addicted, once you have yerba in your life, there is no getting rid of it. So the people eventually continued to harvest it from the wild, and it maintained its status. And eventually, it became the national infusion of Argentina. And there's even a day in Argentina dedicated to yerba mate. Now, you may also have heard that yerba mate actually has health benefits. Now, of course, obviously it has caffeine. Caffeine gives you energy, or it doesn't actually give you energy, but it cuts off the fatigue connections in your brain, so your brain forgets that it's tired. Now, it also has antioxidants, just like wine has, but most importantly is it brings people together. Now, I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do to make the perfect mate so that you can start bringing people together and learning the cultural rules of yerba mate. So the first and most important is the cup. Now, this is called a mate itself. If you want to refer, oh, can you bring me my mate? This itself is called a mate. Now, if you want to go deeper, it's called a gourd. Now, the reason it's called a mate gourd is because they used a fruit called a calabash. The calabash is a gourd, they hollow it out, and then you get something like this. The people would drink their mate out of this because it would add to the flavor. But of course, as technology increased, they made mate out of other ways. For example, this one's in metal. Now, you have different types of mate gourds. You have ceramic, which is glass. You have calabash, which is natural. You have wood, you have metal, and then you can just use a plastic cup, whatever you want. Now, each of these has its benefits. I would say the more advanced mate drinkers like to use wood or calabash. Calabash adds flavor to it. It also adds a grippier texture so that your mountain, which I'll show you what that means later, can be held a little bit better. But calabash gourds do need to be cured. So if you're somebody who is just starting out and you don't know which mate gourd to buy, the easiest option would be something metal or glass, because this doesn't need any curing. This doesn't need any special care. You just rinse it out once you're done, put it away, and bring it back. The natural ones are subject to mold. The wood ones need to be cured in a funny way. So when picking a mate gourd, those are the considerations you should make. Next up, you are going to need a straw. Now, in Argentina, this is called a bombilla. Now, remember, in Argentine Spanish, the majority of the time, the double L and the Y are pronounced as sh. Right? This is called seismo. That's why it's called yerba in Argentina when it's actually spelled yerba. So here you have your bombilla. The bombilla is very important because it has a filter on the bottom. That's how you don't actually sip up all of those leaves. Now again, you have a whole bunch of different types of bombillas. You have small cheap ones, you have expensive ones made of alpaca. Alpaca is good because it doesn't get too hot when you sip. Because imagine if you're drinking hot water up the cup, it's metal. Metal conducts heat very well. So your lips might get hot. An alpaca one will be more expensive, but it prevents you burning your mouth. Now I have a whole bunch back there that aren't alpaca and I'm just fine. In general, especially with Argentine yerba, you don't really need to worry about which type of bombilla you use. Next up, you have your hot water. Now guys, super incredibly important is that this is not boiling water. If your water is too hot when you make a mate, it's going to taste worse and you're gonna kill some of the nutrients in the mate. The water should be about 77 degrees, 70-ish degrees, depending on where you like it, not boiling. Something interesting that somebody told me, which honestly I don't really think it works that well, but if you put your hand over the water like this and you can leave it there for 7 seconds, then the water is not too hot. So obviously my hand is still okay. Eventually you're gonna need to take your hand off because it gets too hot. And finally we have the yerba. Now, as Argentinians do, I have moved this over into a, what's this freaking called? What is this called? Container? Glass? Jar! Now, as Argentinians do, I've put this into a glass jar because I need to carry it around and I don't like powder or anything to spill in my backpack. Now, what's important to note is this right here is Yerba Argentina. Now, all the different countries are going to do yerba in a slightly different way. This one, for example, as you can see, it's got bigger pieces, it's got stems, and it's got leaves in there. This contributes to a different flavor, different behavior. If you look at the Uruguayan yerba, this one you can see is super, super, super fine. It's got a lot more powder. All of this is going to cause them to behave differently. In this video, we're going to be working with Argentino yerba because that's my experience in Argentina. So now let's actually make the mate. We are going to start with our mate gourd, as you guys know, and we're going to fill it to about halfway, maybe just over halfway. Just like that. Just like that, we're at roughly halfway. Next up, we need to make sure that the particles, that the stems, that the leaves are all shaken up inside, and we also want to see how much powder we're dealing with. Put your hand over the hole and you just shake, right? You can even take a look at your hand afterwards to see how much powder. The more powder you have, the more bitter it's going to be. While you're shaking it, you also bring the bigger pieces up towards the top, which is going to decrease the likeliness of clogging of your bombilla. Now, as you may notice, when people are drinking mate, one side is a lot taller than the other side. That is because we are making what's called a mountain. Now, making a mountain is quite hard. If you do it wrong, all your yerba is going to fall out of the cup. So this is exactly how I make the mountain. I bring it to its side and I slide my hand off just like that. As you can see here, oh, I spilt a little bit. As you can see, a lot of it stayed on one side and the other half is empty. We want to keep this side nice and dry so that when the flavor runs out, we start tapping into this dry side to keep the flavor going for the whole liter of water. Now, there's two ways that Argentinians do this. There are some Argentinians who straight up don't care. They just want to drink their mate. They'll take their bombilla and they'll already put it in. Great. They'll put it in like that. They'll pour the water in and that's okay. Most of the time, this works just fine. Right, most of the time that works just fine, but if you want to go to Argentina, if you want to show them that you really care, if you want to show them that you respect their culture, this is exactly how you should do it. We're going to do it the proper way, right? So we're going to make the mountain. We are going to do the same way I told you, like that. Keep the mountain on one side, and we're going to fill it with hot water. Now, not all the way, just enough to cover where the filter of the straw is going to go. So we're going to let it sit for a moment. We're going to keep it on an angle to keep the mountain alive. This part's actually quite hard usually, which I usually suck at. I feel like it's going to fall over. The reason that we do that is now we want if you put the bombilla inside and then pour the water, there's a chance that the powder, the leaves, the stems are going to expand a little bit into the straw and get it to clog. That's why we leave it like this. Right now, we're letting all of the swelling happen, not into the bombilla. Now, while I sit here and let this swell up a little bit, let's talk about some of the rules of drinking mate. Now, typically, if you're not drinking mate by yourself, which, by the way, you can do, I do it almost every morning, but otherwise, you're going to be sharing it with a lot of other people. The rule is like this. There's one person who handles the water. I call it the watermonger, but in Argentina, they call it the cerbador. The cerbador is the only one who's going to be pouring the water. They are going to pour the water into the cup and pass it to the next person. The person is going to drink that mate, pass it right back to the cerbador. They're going to pour more water and I'll give it to the next person. Once that person finishes, it comes back to me, or the cerbador, pour more water, and that's how it goes around. Now, typically, the cerbador will be the first one to drink the mate because the first sips are always the most bitter when all of the powder is being introduced into that first cup. Now, it's also very important that one keeps the order of the mate going. It's gonna go to this person always, and then this person always, and this person always. You don't really confuse it. And finally, if you are done drinking mate, you don't want to be passed the mate anymore, you say gracias. Now, gracias doesn't just mean like, oh, thank you, I enjoyed that, can't wait for the next one. No, gracias means I do not want any more mate. Now, the Argentinians just say this as a way to make it not sound so rude. Like, you don't want to say to the person, that's it, no more mate. No, you say gracias, and then the servidor will not pass it back to you. Now that we have left it to swell up just a little bit, we are just gonna shove the mate underneath the mountain. As you can see, the mountain is going to rise just a bit. Careful, careful, careful. Now, we keep the dry side dry. We just pour the water where the straw is, where the bombilla is. There you go. And now we start to sip. Now, you guys also may know that it's one of the most important rules to not touch the bombilla. If you touch the bombilla, this makes the possibility that it's gonna clog. So do not touch the bombilla. I know it's everybody's first habit to go and do this when they drink. Usually you have to tell people before they pick up the cup, don't touch the bombilla, you idiot. And that is the process of mate. Now everybody's gonna be sitting around the table, they're gonna be drinking it, they're gonna be passing it around, but there's one certain phrase that you might hear if you've messed up. And if you messed up, you're gonna hear, el mate no es micrófono. What this means, the mate isn't a microphone, give it. This is my second mate of the day, so I'm gonna be like running up the walls. You know your mate is done once you hear that noise. Now, if you're drinking it by yourself, you're just gonna re-pour it the same as you did before, keeping the mountain dry on the one side. Now, because I'm not gonna finish the mate in this video, I'm gonna show you how to finish the mate. So once your cup of water is getting empty, once you tell that the flavor is starting to go, then as you pour, you're gonna slowly pour it onto the mountain, getting that dry stuff wet, getting that powder reintroduced into the water. Now, I hope that you learned a little bit about mate. Argentinians absolutely love it when you enjoy their culture. To them, it's the best thing in the world because they love their culture so much. So showing some appreciation, showing some effort to learn how to make a good mate, to go and drink a good mate, to know the rules of a good mate. I'm telling you, it is a secret to just joining them and getting a better experience in Buenos Aires. There's so many opportunities that you can drink a mate. You can go to a park in Buenos Aires or even wherever you are in the world, sit down on the grass, drink a mate. You can wake up in the morning next to a beautiful Argentinian girl, pour mate and share that together. If you're taking a long car ride and you want to introduce your friends to mate, sit in the back seat, get that mate going and start passing it around. Just be careful, it makes you really need to pee, and also every time I drink a mate, I have to poop, so just a warning, that's the risk. But that is everything you need to know about having a good Argentino mate. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you're looking to integrate a little bit more into the culture of Argentina, I've dedicated my channel to doing that. YouTube's gonna pop up a video right here that it recommends that you watch. It's probably a good video, I would imagine. Check that out, and I will see you guys in the next video.